VCR Redux will begin in T-minus 5 minutes.
What the fart is VCR Redux?
It's the show where we take movies from the VCR era and bring them back to today.
Well, how do we do that?
Well, we start by talking about a VHS classic, and usually you'll say something like,
I haven't been this uncomfortable since I watched Meatballs 4, Meatballs to the Rescue with my parents. Oh yeah, or you'll say something stupid like,
I wish we lived in a world where the Garbage Pail Kids made as many movies as the Muppets.
but I know you'll always see it through with a positive attitude.
I hate this movie, I hate being here, I hate all of this. Oh, Jamie Kennedy. Oh, well, shit. Well, let's go for this.
He was in Son of Mask. This is genius.
I am not a gamer. I'd rather read books.
Ian's like the old lady that's like, I got video game monsters, I got movie monsters in here.
As long as we respect the passion and the artistry that went into these films.
You know, obviously they took this movie, it's 93, right? You're like, what do you want to see in your Mario movie? And they're like, oh, we want it to be grim, we want a lot of death, we want tits and ass.
Oh, and then we start the pitch ideas with modern day sequels like
Weekend at Bernie's 3, Cocaine Mountain.
Sometimes we take it kind of seriously.
I'll watch a Paul Verhoeven alien movie.
oh my gosh, that alien will have more vaginas than anything you've ever seen in your life. Sometimes this Hawaiian shirted fool will pitch something stupid like,
I would take out the virtual reality stuff and just have it be about Jeff Fahey mowing the lawn.
Sometimes the best pitches come from the live chat.
Alex Bonafonte also pitches Grand Theft Starfighter Vice Galaxy.
wait, I thought I had the best pitches.
And what happens at the end of the movie? The ultimate fart. The fart that the warmth goes like all the way down to your socks.
The only rules are, there are no rules. Sometimes we cross over franchises.
Only the truck from Tango and Cash can kill Christine.
And sometimes we travel back in time.
Like 1995 is missing a good Universal Soldier sequel.
But you never know what we're gonna pitch next.
What do you want? Do you want Daniel Stern behind like a muzzled mask? Like,
We all know it should be Pesci behind the mask, and like underneath the mask, you should hear him going like fritter, 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 fritter.
you are so proud of yourself for that one. I can't stand you.
I would also love to see a Charles Bronson version of It's a Wonderful Life.
What?
Direct to DVD.
If you made a shot-for-shot remake of Scarface with Goofy as Al Pacino, it would be amazing.
Oh my God.
Dorsey, you need me to be the bad guy.
It's like the worst 1987 Disney movie Disney's ever made. Schlongo, directed by Jim Wynorski.
Like, I would watch a whole bowl of that.
Do the John Holmes story. Add a comedy spin to it.
Wow, the Wonderland murders are so funny.
I'd watch it on my mobile.
Something happens and he goes into a coma. He gets like, hit by a car or something. I know this is dark, but like, bear with me. He's got to go on.
Did you just go like Hard to Kill with Ferris Bueller?
I'd watch it on my iPad.
If you want to just like throw in the kitchen sink, I mean, it all works. Like Alien versus Predator versus RoboCop, like that works. Alien versus Predator versus Terminator, that works.
Alien versus Predator versus Ernest, that works.
That works.
I respect everything you just said. I need David Silver and Terry Silver and the Sloan family all learning the Quicksilver, but they're doing it in Breakin' 3 Hydraulic Boogaloo. And it's underwater. It's gonna be incredible. Eat your fucking shit out, James Cameron. I got the underwater movie you can't touch.
That was the most disgusting thing I've ever heard on in my life.
Mr. Toxie Goes to Washington.
My ass would be in the theater tomorrow.
If Harley Quinn gets 7 movies, then Tank Girl should get at least 70.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of in my life.
I mean, why should we even bother with Look Who's Talking when Air Bud is soaring to new highs?
All I know is I want Danny McBride.
I'd want him doing anything other than writing Halloween movies, honestly. Anything that keeps him away from that fucking job, I'm for it.
Just let him talk out of his butt. I don't care how he does it.
I'd rather not.
Austin Powers doing the Macarena.
That would be the opening credits. Come on.
But we have not yet had Die Hard on a half pipe. What if John McClane Jr. was a pro skateboarder and also an avid machine gun enthusiast? Skate or Die Hard.
What up, virtual people? Welcome to the 172nd episode of VCR Redux. We take your favorite franchises out of the analog era and bring them back to 2024. I'm your host, pop culture punk Chris Stiles, joined as always by my co-host with the most complaints, film professor Ian Klink.
Watch.
And the third leg of our VCR tripod himself, Mac Daddy Mickey Torres, is Mick back on the show.
What's up, everyone?
And rounding out this righteous crew, the VCR's favorite location scout, Michael Ricci, is back on the show.
Hey, don't wear those glasses too long, okay?
Might start seeing things. Well, folks, we are here today to form a rowdy revolt against the Reagan right wing, to wear our sunglasses at night, and to kick ass and chew bubblegum. And we're all out of bubblegum. That's right, folks. This world needs They Live too, and we're here to give it to you. But before Ian starts a lecture on supply side economics, we got a dish on how They Live came into our lives and what we love about it. And of course, that goes double for you at home and everyone watching the live chat. Was it Love at First Laserdisc, Vital VHS? Hit us up in the chat and let us know how They Live came into your lives. But Michael, when did you first get They Lived?
So this would have been, I would have been too young when it came out. And from what I hear from most people, you know, home video, HBO was the way. Pretty sure it was VHS. And it would have been early 90s, probably like 93, 94. I want to say like 11 or 12, like, you know, right around that age when a boy is starting to think about things. And I very much remember it coming from wrestling. We were very much into wrestling, and my dad took us to some big event at the Garden in Boston. I don't know that it was a WrestleMania. I remain traumatized from that because of a bloody cage match between Hulk Hogan and Sergeant Slaughter. But then hearing that, wow, a wrestler that we know is in a movie that you will let us watch, and we probably shouldn't have watched it. I do remember the one scene sticking with me as a preteen boy was the last scene where we get to see a naked lady. But then, you know, very much enjoying it, not really understanding it at the time. And then a few years later in high school, coming to it because of design elements, because of an artist we were talking about in the pre-show, Shepard Fairey, who was inspired by the text Obey and came up with this thing with Andre the Giant, if you've ever seen the sticker. And a buddy of mine had those stickers and actually went on to work for Shepard Fairey a bit, and then kind of refining it then. But definitely originally through wrestling, which was pretty awesome, you know?
Well, it's definitely no wrong way to eat a Carpenter flick. Mickey, when did you
There
first
is.
get
It's
They
called
Lived?
Mars Bar.
Mars Bar. Oh my God. There's the movie tie-in we need. I want a mission to Mars Bar. I need that.
That's good.
You're the matchup guy. Bring it.
When did Mickey get McLived while I grab my
Well-
cat who's crying outside the door?
Well,
We love animals
for,
on the show.
for me, I don't remember. I think I saw this in the theaters.
What?
You would have been one of very few.
Yeah, I was 12 years old.
I'm
So
a big-
I think I did get to go see this in the theaters. I'm pretty sure I saw it in the theaters. If I did not see it in the theaters, it would have been straight like straight HBO or yeah.
Do you think
But
you had already seen some Carpenter at that point, so you knew, or was it more
Well,
like the
Halloween.
wrestling side? Yeah.
Halloween and got R.I.P.
I know.
R.I.P. Roddy. So like,
I think
just
this
watched
is an interesting.
I just watched Hell Comes to Frogtown a couple weeks ago too, and I actually love that movie too. you
oh,
know?
that was a great movie. I met Roddy Piper a couple times, and we then we shared a love of Hell Comes to Frog. I have it autographed by him. So
Oh, that's
Nice.
That's great.
So I have that autographed by him and his book and stuff like that. He was such a sweet guy. But I remember watching this, like I'm really sure that I saw this in the theaters. And if I did not, it was HBO. But I have a vivid memory of seeing this in the theaters. So
I know Chris is jealous, but I would be jealous just because I watched this movie now and like a crisp take of it, and the cinematography is good. The shot selection is really good. I mean, when he's walking around, I get in the beginning, I get kind of flashes of Rambo a little bit, the Drifter walking around, but the shots are just great. It just, there's so many parts in this movie when there's not a lot of dialogue and we're kind of moving through the story and you can just kind of chill with it.
I
Seeing it
never
in
thought of
theater
it this
was-
way. It kind of is like if John Carpenter did First Blood.
Yeah.
I never
For
thought of it
sure.
that way, but
I
that
can
is
see
kind of essentially sort of what the movie is. It's like it's just First Blood through John Carpenter.
Yeah, it's funny because I wrote down that note and I was like, either the guys are gonna love that or they're gonna totally disagree with me
Think so.
because it's not the Pacific Northwest, it's not the same get out of here vibe, but it's
But
destitute,
neither
right?
Stallone nor Carpenter are above a self-indulgent soundtrack full of your friends. In
Yeah,
those
for
movies,
sure.
like that's one of my favorite things ever is like the juxtaposition from how good each of those first three Rambo movies are to how terrible each of the end credits songs are for
Yes.
all three of those movies. Like it is like it's shocking. It's like
This is
it's
why we're
like,
not friends. This is
Oh.
absolutely 100% why we never can ever be real true friends in real life. We
You
pretend.
like It's a Long Road by Frank Stallone? I love
Who
Frank Stallone, and
doesn't
even
love
I hate
that
that song.
But I mean,
Everyone
Chris,
with two fucking ears.
The
it
long
just feels like the
road.
point was at that
When you're
time in
on
history,
your
when you're
own.
making a movie, you got to put a banger at the end.
And
Like, if
that
you don't
was
have
a
a banger at
banger.
the end.
That was a banger. That was that. You
No,
listen
dude,
to that,
they
you don't
needed-
cry. You're a communist.
No, Commando ends with a fucking banger. That's a jam. That's got
Yeah.
like that's got
Commando,
that's some
get outta
fucking
here.
make
I'm
some
done with
horns,
this propaganda.
Yeah.
That's Running Man ends with a banger. Three Men and a Baby ends with a banger. No,
This movie
That
doesn't
one-
really
okay,
end
that
with a
one-
banger.
that one we
That's the
agree
only
on.
thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Three Men and a Baby for sure. But
Every time Chris and our friendship is on the rocks, all we have to do is talk about Three Men and a Baby, and everything is better again.
Well, I don't want to know who's the Danson and who's the Selleck and who's the Gutenberg of this fucking trio, this tripod. But I do
Go
want
on,
to know when young
Selleck.
Iowa Ian
Yeah, I want to know too.
got lived. Yeah.
The black and white version here.
Gas
Yeah.
station. Gas station.
Yeah.
and
What
pizza.
gas station served this up with a slice of
And
pizza to you, sir?
here's the funny part. I don't, this was one of those that I kept seeing the aliens in all of my movie books. And you always heard about They Live, but it was one that just I could never find on video. I could never see it. And I remember I was a junior in college. And as weird as this sounds, but if you're a movie nerd, like you'll be okay with it. But like every summer I would dedicate to buying the films of X director. Like I would save up my money for the year and then I would go out. So like the first year I bought all George Romero's on DVD. And then
Just like the catalog.
just the catalog. I went out and would go to Best Buy when Best Buy actually had DVDs, and I would buy all of George Romero's. Well, the summer after that, I went out and I got all the John Carpenters, and Universal had just brought out They Live. I mean, no special features, no nothing. It was just basically the movie. But that's how I got They Live. So I wasn't like I said, I was a junior in college when I first saw it.
Yeah,
And
that would have been like almost 20, right?
yeah, I mean, I'm somewhere around there. And I will tell you right now, They Live is the Criterion Collection DVD that John Carpenter has not been included with. Like They Live is what needs to be in Criterion.
Agreed. Yeah, I would
I
put
could see
this.
that, yeah.
This is definitely in my top 5 Carpenter. But I'm curious, how if it would be in all of yours and what your rankings would be. And for everyone in the live chat too, I'm not sure if anyone's in there yet because I don't think I'm that far caught up with the live chat.
I mean,
So
obviously
top five, yeah.
They Live is above the Ward or Ghost of Mars or again, I have nothing against
Even above the fall.
But I'll tell you right now,
even
I
above
know we've done
Christine.
it. We've done this on the show, but I will put
Christine, he said.
They Live over Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah. I
Oh,
would put over that.
definitely. I don't even honestly.
Yeah.
This may sound blasphemous. I don't think Big Trouble makes my Carpenter top 5.
I agree.
I'm not bashing
I
it.
agree.
I'm not bashing it, but the guy's got a deep catalog, and what can you do? I very much enjoy Big Trouble, but I'm kind of also a Golden Child kind of guy, so that's maybe where our friendship ends
also-
again. I don't know, but
I also
before,
We're
Oh, go
fine.
ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say before I get to my first time with They Live, I'm gonna catch up with the live chat here. I see Johnny J Tab in there, new name. Thank you for tuning in. Angie Saunders, the mashup genius. Monica Thyman coming all the way from Sweden. Check out her newest concert footage, by the way. Dustin Nino the Great from Retrofiend Radio makes the finest canon and martial arts docs on the interwebs. Look out for the Lucinda Dickey interview.
Oh, it was
I cannot
Whiskey
wait.
41 the Great, Whiskey 41 the Great Alex Bonafonte, Sean Ellis, Caitlin Altman, America's Next Top Model, Gold's Code, the Great Sean Gold. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Dustin says, I came here to Redux movies and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Well, then you came to the right place. In classic form, Angie Saunders, as usual, says, I never saw this one. Thank you so much for tuning in all the time, Angie. I hope you watched a couple of these movies.
That's straight
now.
awesome.
Sean
Now you
Ellis
gotta
celebrating
watch the
this.
movie.
Whiskey 41, this is a VHS rental when I was 8. That's like a great way. I feel like I missed out on someone's birthday party where we all watched They Live and woke up to what was really going on in the world.
Yeah.
That didn't happen to me till later. Dustin, the first time I saw this was a kid in the 90s at a friend's house. See, this is the thing. He had one of those satellite dishes the size of a car. We were blown away at the whole glasses concept. That's
Just
the
like
childhood.
in the movie.
Oh, that's
Just like in the movie.
Americana right
Yeah,
there.
that's
Retro
really
patina.
good.
Oh, I love that. I
Grandparents
want
had that satellite, and that hunker was sold for junk metal only a few years ago.
My grandfather in Connecticut had a huge one out in the backyard, like really big, like the size of a building, and I never understood that. Yeah.
There was a friend of mine who lived up the road from me had one of those.
What's the size of your satellite dish, Bronco?
I think it's
I
funny
think
though.
it's
You
more
guys were
like
talking
rural
about
areas.
all time John Carpenter top 5, whatever. And it's like from the birth of this movie, you see it kind of getting pushed around, right? They moved the original date so that it didn't compete with Halloween 4. And to move it closer to the election. Okay, I get that. Carpenter would want to do that. But it just feels like a passion project. It's low budget for him. It's only $4 million. He adapts it, not originally from the short story. He reads the graphic novel, then goes back and reads the story. And Ian's winking at me here because he knows all this. But the 8 o'clock in the morning by Ray Nelson from 1963. So this is like an old story, right? He sees the graphic novel, wants to adapt it. It feels like it's like Carpenter had earned the right to do what he wanted to do, and this is what he wanted to do, right? He was kind of not done with Kurt Russell, but he was like, look, I got Kurt Russell in 4 movies. I need someone. He thought of everyone besides Steven Seagal. He was the only one I didn't see in the list. And then he was like, but no. And then he sees the last match, or up until that point, the last match that Roddy's in, the retirement match, and he's like, I want that guy. And then they're best friends, and he gives him leash to do what he wants to do. I mean, we'll talk about some sequences in this movie that Roddy sets up. I don't want to get into that quite yet. We've already talked about Bubblegum. But like for me, it just feels like this is a very free John Carpenter doing whatever he wants to do, up to and including putting in a pseudonym, Frank Armitage, instead of his own name, because he's sick of seeing his own name. Mickey, you mentioned Christine.
Oh,
He
yeah,
said he
yeah.
hated seeing John Carpenter's Christine by John Carpenter, produced, written. And so he changed his own name. Who does that? To me,
so
that's
he saw his name.
that's
Saw his name on the poster like 7 times. He's like, "What an asshole!"
He's so sick of that.
Well, I don't think you would have to be a hardcore like at that time when this movie came out. Like, I don't remember there being like an inclination like this is a Carpenter movie, like so to speak. And I don't know if I knew enough at the time. Like I liked Halloween and everything else like that, but I just didn't get it just didn't process for me that this is John Carpenter, the man that did Halloween, like he did They Live. Like I didn't see that. Only reason why I knew John Carpenter did Christine is obviously because it said John Carpenter's Christine or whatever like that. So and I think I was still like early on that I just couldn't correlate, great directors with their work, so to speak, or I wasn't such a fan of the director's work to then follow everything they did at that time.
You didn't go seeing, okay, John Carpenter got to be there. You were, it wasn't quite that yet.
So
Roddy Piper got me in the movie. Like essentially, it was like Roddy Piper's in the movie. I'm seeing this.
Yeah, it's done. Yeah.
So similar for me, except it was cable. It's just one of those nights where you just can't sleep and you're just scrolling through the 4 premium channels that you've got, and you're like, all right, yeah, what's this? Like, I guess that's Roddy Piper. Okay, this seems cool. And I had no idea that that's Carpenter and that's the same guy who did Halloween, and that, I had not even seen Prince of Darkness yet. I'd definitely seen Christine and Big Trouble, but I don't think I would have even connected the dots via that either.
Exactly.
And it's funny because he spent so much of his early career, like you said, putting his name above the title. That was a big sticking point in the deal for Halloween. He's like, well, I'll make it on all these terms as long as my name's above the title. and I get final cut and my name above the title. I think were his two like non-negotiables.
Yeah. And I mean, this
so
ends up being big for a bunch of them, right? Like, I mean, and like I said, for Carpenter, it's not the biggest thing, but like I said, being able to do what he wanted to do, I think creatively was cool. Like Halloween 4 is coming out, you're on that as a producer. Okay, I'll move my movie, but and
was
it even
he as
did
a producer on 4? I don't even know if I realized
I think
that.
he was, and I think that's why that happened. I'm not
Okay.
100% on that, but I'm
I
fairly
don't think
certain.
it was for 4. I know he was for 3.
I mean, they still have
Yeah,
his
for 3
name.
I'm sure he
somewhere.
get. I'm sure he got
paid.
a
I mean,
characters
yeah,
by
yeah,
he's getting
yeah.
paid somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, with this, to push the date, I mean, any other movie to do that might hurt you. And then it does hit #1 that weekend, and from what I see, it cost $4 million and it made $13 million. To me, that's good. But
Hell yeah, it's
Carpenter's
great
always
business.
said it left theaters very quickly, and everyone says it quote didn't make much money. So I don't know if that's underselling or the hype train wasn't big, but
I think honestly, I think what it was, truthfully, I think it's cliche to say a movie's ahead of its time,
For
and
sure.
I don't even know if that cliche works for this movie. I think this movie was calling things out a little bit harsher than I think people wanted it to be called out. Because
True, but we needed that voice.
we did, and I'll tell you my favorite, you know, thing about kind of stuff of like this, National Lampoon magazine. If you ever watch the documentary Brilliant Stone, Dead Stupid or whatever that's called, they have the greatest magazine cover of all time, right? National Lampoon. They had a dog on the cover. They put a gun to its head and said, "Buy this magazine or we'll shoot the dog."
Yeah.
And every every person in an ad company for years thought that was the greatest ad campaign ever because it said exactly what they wanted to say, but had to come up with all these other
right
cutesy
without
ways of
veiling
doing
it in a nice package.
It's literally consume, buy.
Yeah.
It's everything. The movie really was pointing out the 80s and what the 80s really were because it was our parents' generation of Woodstock, peace, love, and happiness selling out by becoming lawyers because they wanted big TVs. I mean,
Baby
it
boomers.
really is what
The start of the baby boomers.
yeah, it's what happened. It was buy. And
And
Carpenter was
culturally and politically, we've been in 80s nostalgia mode for decades now, for literally 4 decades now.
Yeah,
of
we've
80s
talked about
nostalgia.
it. Like for the
Yeah.
formula, we should be talking about the 2000s at this point, but for some reason, we're still stuck in the 80s.
Honestly,
yeah.
like I just think at the time that this movie came out, it was just a weird movie as far as in the sense like it was so sci-fi and so like
high
it was like
concept.
you had to think. Like it is literally like a thinking movie, but like so I don't think people were ready for this kind of movie just in the sense in the aspect of like we just want like action or comedy, something that was easy to digest, and this was
Yeah,
not
no,
that.
Mickey, you're totally right. It's very high concept. It's diving into big things about politics, Reaganomics, economics, all these other things. I was reading this article about this that back in 2018 was talking about like the 30-year anniversary, and this is dense, but it basically and I agree with this, but it's a little high-minded. Part of a legacy in the horror genre that deploys supernatural terror to reflect and comment upon real-life issues and social developments. Like, yes, that's true, but I wouldn't say that and think I was talking about They Live, but that's true. It's if you can go into this movie and it's so much fun that you can zone out and just say, okay, there's aliens and they're doing stuff. But if you really want to think about it, like when they wear the glasses for too long and they get headaches, like what's really happening to their brain, and then when you get into the second half of the movie, the tone kind of changes and he's showing them around and okay, we're warping in space places and doing stuff. Like it gets so heavy sci-fi for a second, and then it takes you out of that and gets back to shooting guns and naked ladies. That's the tone
Well, that's
is
like
kind of
that's like those
goes back to
there's a lot of these 80s, especially the 80s horror-ish movies, have that one scene. Like, what's with the Nazi werewolf scene in American Werewolf in London? Like, what the fuck is that? That takes me out of that movie every goddamn time. So, I can understand that.
But the breaks in this movie are awesome. Like for a minute, I love when we get to the character Holly, when we get to her apartment and you get those views, and then he's starting to fall asleep and you know what's gonna happen. And then she just fucking throws him out the window and a whole nother thing starts. And when he goes out that window, I'm always like, yes, like I love that moment because then we're back in it the way be in it. And the only thing with this, there's a lot of like continuity errors, you know, and I think now that takes me out of it more than it did then. Back then I didn't care. That's the only thing I noticed those a lot in this. And that's just one of the only negatives for me.
It's also like a lot of like for the like in that time period, like the black and white aspect of it.
So cool.
Yeah. Which you didn't have in a lot of movies, if at all.
No, they said that grocery store scene was the most expensive, labor-intensive part because they had to label everything and change that whole store. The ones like Ian's background are just matte paintings that they did that look sick, and those almost remind me of Hitchcock a little bit, like Rear Window. And some of that.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of nods in here to a lot of different things.
So, some interesting things in the chat. I see Whiskey41 say They Live is hands down the best movie ever starring a wrestler, and I cannot disagree with that. It's
certainly not Thunder in Paradise.
It's
John
certainly
Cena's
not.
probably got something to say about that soon. I think.
You know what? John Cena's been in some good stuff. The Rock has he's been in 100 movies, I think, at this point, and still not one of them has made the cultural dent that Suburban Commando has made. So fuck him.
Oh, Chris,
and
you know
Hulk
the other
Hogan.
connection to Suburban Commando here, right?
I'm trying to make that the.
No, what is the other?
The PKE meter at the end from Ghostbusters is
Oh,
also
fuck.
in Suburban Commando.
That's in everything. Shit,
And in
you're
this
right.
movie,
That's the
he's
most
just
used prop
talking into
ever.
it. It's so dumb.
It really is. It really is the most used prop ever. But
I love the watches though. Like, we got one who can see. I love that.
Oh, those, yeah. There's so much in this movie that's great. I gotta say though, you know, even though he's one of my favorite actors, and this is one of the things that everyone loves about this movie, I hate the fight. I hate the fight. I hate
it goes on
it.
too long.
Because
it goes on too long.
Favorite. It's my least favorite fight ever.
Is it
It
'cause
serves
of the
no
length?
function to the story. It does nothing to this movie.
But they become best friends.
They become best friends.
It has
but-
nothing to do with the story. He just wanted to make the longest fight scene over
Yeah,
Quiet Man.
They rehearsed it for 3
I hate
weeks.
fights. I hate fights that have no music to them. Also, it's just like it always fails for me. It just ends up feeling awkward. It feels like the type of fight that I would have choreographed with my friends when I was 12, and we just put the camera on a tripod and we just make up whatever we want to at the top of our heads. And like, he's a wrestler. I've never seen one of his matches be a tenth that bad. Like, and granted, I know the great Keith David is not a wrestler, but one of the finest actors ever.
You guys ever
so-
met Keith David?
No, I'm dying to.
I got to
David
meet him.
Keith and Keith David are two of my favorite
How
actors.
did he only do the thing in this? How did he not end up working with Carpenter more?
Oh, are we just you mean Carpenter? I was gonna say, are we just gonna forget about like a litany of shit that the man.
No.
He was in Men at Work. I mean, come on.
Yeah, no, Men at Work. But I'm just
Men at
saying, I
Work.
can't believe he would do the thing and then do this, and then he would never be in another Carpenter movie again. You know, that's just surprising.
I mean, when I met, I
He must have
met
passed
him.
on Mission to Mars.
Yeah, he was great, and I definitely talked Mission to Mars. Get out of here.
So a couple of things with the
Oh, it's
fight.
not Mission to Mars. It's Ghost of Mars.
Yeah, Ghost of
You can
Mars.
say Mission
Oh,
to
I
Mars.
like that he was saying Mission Mars. Though. That was
My
cool.
condolences. I fucking pulled an Ian for once.
Is it-
Oh,
Is
it's the first
vampires
time
and
you
all
ever
that?
did that.
They did rehearse this scene for 3 weeks in the backyard of the production office. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
If I was working on this movie and just saw them fighting out back, that would be sick.
They spent 3 weeks on that fucking
Well,
scene.
I read one
Jesus
thing that said
Christ.
3 weeks. I read another thing that said 2 months. So somewhere in there.
I'm sure it was less than.
On the commentary, which I didn't watch the commentary for this. I've seen it before. Carpenter quote, "Now we're about to start one of the great fight scenes in movie history." That's what he says. And then when he was asked on somewhere else if he ever considered making the fight any shorter in the editing room, Carpenter's response, "Fuck no."
Fuck you. Yeah, probably that. I was gonna say
Yeah.
he probably fucking told the guy who asked that to go fuck himself, knowing
And
Carpenter.
then Ian, maybe I'll scratch an itch here, but the other thing I read, inspired by a fight in The Quiet Man from 1952 with John Ford, John Wayne, and Victor McClagan, which I haven't seen that fight.
Yeah, I mean,
I have seen that.
Well, it is. It's the third act. I mean,
And it serves a narrative purpose in that movie, right?
Yeah, well, yes, he's fighting the dad because he wants to marry his daughter. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's a son and a soon-to-be father-in-law are fighting each other, and the whole point is that John Wayne has to prove himself to be a man, to the father, so the father can give his permission for his daughter. Look, The Quiet Man. Well, actually, you guys have seen scenes from The Quiet Man if you ever saw E.T.
They're watching it.
the scene on the TV where the door opens and the wind's gusting and he pulls the girl in, and and Elliot does that in the classroom. Well, that's the
Yeah.
quiet. It's John Ford, but it's long story short, the Quiet Man. It is considered one of these, very misogynistic, very outdated, man's man kind of movie, and that fight scene does go on forever. Well, John Carpenter wanted to beat that. It's still shorter. That's the thing. The fight scene in They Live is way shorter than the fight scene in.
You're just so proud to talk about John Ford. You're like, well, this
I guess in the
Quiet
script,
Man we find Ford films. And
I'm sorry
he
that
tied
I
it into
actually
ET,
want to
so that's
watch
not
a
so
good
bad.
movie once in a great while. While I
Oh, They Live is not a great
Killing
film.
of the
Come on.
Shrews and Blood Beast Farts
Terrible
9.
movies,
Like,
all terrible
sometimes I do want to watch something of quality, Chris.
It's no Cat from Outer Space or College Kickboxers, I tell you that.
College
But,
Kick, God bless that movie. We're doing that.
God bless it, indeed. So a lot of love, like I say, a lot of love for this in the chat, and some love for Three Men and a Little Lady, a fine sequel as well. I did enjoy that sequel.
Only for
in
Ted
fact,
Danson's acting as the minister.
well, I'll tell you what, I want us to do the Three Men and a series, whatever, Three Men and a Bride, whatever it would be. That would be a
Christmas
fun
movie. We could toss it in there.
Is it a Christmas movie?
Well, it's got a little Christmas in it.
I don't know about that. I just watched them like recently, like last week. I watched them both. I don't remember any Christmas stuff.
You know what I'm getting confused with, and now I'm pulling an Ian moment. Look who's talking.
Only the third one. Only the third
babies.
one has to do with Christmas. Look
And
who's
we did
talking
that.
now. It also has a Loverboy reference with Senor Loco Pizza.
For sure.
That's right.
You are so proud of that fact. You are so proud that you were able to bust that out.
There was another good.
Someone's got to be the love doctor of Beverly Hills.
There was another good casting note that kind of doubles up here. George Buck Flower playing a homeless guy in this film, Escape from New York, and Back to the Future.
Back to the
Remember when he
Future.
was on the
That's
bench?
right. Yeah.
And then
who was also the mayor in the 50s, George Buck Flower.
Right?
Red.
Yeah.
That's
And
the
then-
idea
and
that the 50s mayor is a bum.
to keep going with these references, the last of 3 movies with George Buck Flower about aliens, including Starman and yes, Mac and Me.
Yes, he is a Mac.
Oh man, wow.
So you got the aliens over here, you got the homeless guys.
That is a
over
weird
here.
holy trinity.
Well,
that is a very.
I thought that was pretty good. I
If you're going to
practiced that.
acknowledge him, I have to acknowledge one of my favorite character actors ever, and that is Peter Jason. That man is pure genius in anything that he is in. Have you guys ever? I mean, first off, do I have any fans here of Cheech and Chong's next movie?
Oh, of course.
I'm a fan of all the Cheech and Chong.
Well,
Cheech and Chong,
he's the one of the rookie dumb cops, not Stacy Keach, but one of the
Right.
like
Stacy Keach.
Niles.
I think I know who Peter is. Peter Jason in Mortal Kombat?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I know exactly who the fuck Peter Jason
Who is
Yes,
he?
I
In
like
the original?
him.
Like Johnny
He's
Cage?
Johnny Cage's like
Yeah,
old
Johnny Cage,
friend.
nice.
Yeah.
That is Peter Jason. He's in Escape from LA, he has the greatest lines like, "You had the world, Snake Plissken. You gave it
that
all
dude's
up.
a great
Why?"
that dude's a great shithouse actor. Like
Oh,
he can
the best.
he can serve you a shit sandwich with the straightest of faces, like conviction. That's
did
the
they
shit that would
get?
make Terry Silver proud.
That is a man that I want to hear Shakespeare only if he says it like Peter Jason taking a crap.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I don't know
So
about that last part.
some more interesting notes in the chat. Sean Ellis saying that this fits in with the time of now because of all the conspiracies involving the government, the police, manipulating
100%.
corruption happening now, especially with all the UFOs being seen everywhere. I.e., I think that may be a reference to a lot of the drones that have been seen around New Jersey, which is a scary thought. Also, the Great Whiskey 41 says he golf claps for men at work, so I would be remiss if I didn't read that reference. There are some pitches though, and we are past the half hour, so I want to start with a couple of those. Gold Code's pitch. Mitchell finds the glasses blading and realizes the preps are aliens and needs not only to beat them, but to save the world, and they live born. Consume this, brah.
Does the world blow up in that
Consume
film? 'Cause I'd be
this.
okay with that.
Dude,
Shocker,
consume
bro.
this, brah. Like, yes, I'm in 100 fucking million%.
Close.
I'm so in. It's Wiley and Mitchell and Wiley's parents standing off with Snake with Jack. Oh man, it's gonna be
The
great.
marketing opportunities with the shades and the fighting and
I want the great Edie McClurg like to shit talk some of these. Like she puts on the sunglasses, like eat my lead, you alien piece of shit. You know,
That's nice.
so good.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
it'd be so
It
good.
would be really cool if you mashed They Live with Cable Guy.
What?
That is wow.
Well, okay, because of the
'Cause
broadcast,
the
and
big
the TV,
satellite
and
and
all
the
that
TV.
stuff.
Dude, that would be so awesome.
And the big set piece where they're on the satellite.
Well,
yeah,
I love it.
know,
They're gonna take over
Mickey's-
the world. They're gonna fucking mind control everybody. But the thing that fucks
Like,
it up is
is the
like
cable
the
guy.
cable
Jim
guy
Carrey's
on the
an
dish.
alien.
Like,
But
Jim Carrey's an
now
alien.
listen, Mickey's not too far off because lately Jim Carrey 2025 Jim Carrey's been a little vocal about a lot of stuff.
Well,
That
yeah.
man doesn't hide back.
I mean,
too
it sounded like he was mainly going away unless he was going to do Sonic, and then he did Sonic.
Sonic.
So
Well,
yeah.
but he's
just
he's
doing
talked
Sonic,
a lot
that's it.
about like Hollywood and Epstein parties and this stuff like that. He's very open.
really, I didn't know he was getting that dark.
Yeah.
Oh, it gets dark. Absolutely.
I
Like
didn't know you got that fucking wild. Well, to lighten the load from that, let's go back to the live chat where Whiskey
Chris,
41 has a
politics
pitch.
are life. Life or politics. There are politics in ant colonies. Quit trying to avoid politics.
I'm not
There-
trying to avoid it. I'm just trying to like at least keep some fucking laughs going.
No, we're gonna talk about you wanna they live in 2025. We are
I didn't. You're in George C. Scott mode right now. You're like, I believe in disease, in
No, I'm
death,
just
in
look.
destruction, and in every
Here's what's
inconceivable
what's
corruption.
No, this is what's interesting though.
Consume.
And
Consume.
ugliness.
In 2025, is this plot so far off? I mean, I'm not saying that we put on sunglasses, we see aliens, but why are we getting, so many iPhones all the time? What was wrong with iPhone 12? What
Right.
was wrong
Tracking,
with iPhone 13?
right,
What?
right, right.
I mean, there is something to the idea of TikTok and how much I watch my students day in and day out be obsessed with the idea of TikToking. And it is such a distraction. Things
Yeah,
could go on
it's the
TikTok.
ultimate like conform, consume,
It really
obey.
is,
you
and it's
know?
Going
like-
viral is
literally-
the drug of
it's-
choice now.
It's Joe Biden pardoned his son after saying, "No, I'm not going to do it." But over here, it's I took a shit today and watch my face while I'm recreating it. Like that,
yeah.
and all the kids
Yeah.
care about is that's a funny face. But it's like, well, hey, Epstein and Clinton were on the same plane, and so was Donald Trump, and it's like, what are we doing? Like They Live is a real thing. It's just where are the sunglasses to show us what's kind of going on?
Well,
Now,
I mean, I think the obvious one is a little what you're talking about. I mean, I would go to like a phrase that I heard, like if you're not on social media, you don't exist, right?
Sure.
Like think of maybe people you know from high school or college, and you can't find them anywhere online. It feels like they don't exist.
They dropped off the face of the earth.
And to me, that's impressive. How do you drop off the face of the earth? How do you have no presence anywhere that I can't find you? That to me is almost impressive. I don't think the four of us can't live that way. We're literally on social media right now.
There's one man that I know who is not, and that is Norman Klink. He's in his 90s, living in Maynard, Iowa, has zero internet to his home, not a computer, has a flip phone.
I will say, apparently,
off the grid as at all possible.
Yeah, but he's 90. I'm talking
apparently
about
he's in
someone
good
who's like
company
30.
because the hottest filmmaker right now is obviously Christopher Nolan, and he is apparently the same way. He apparently uses a flip phone only. He doesn't have a smartphone. Email is something that he like almost never does. So like he'll do it like maybe like once or twice per movie. And that's like, so he just works with who he's comfortable working with. Other people have to
I
do all
get that,
shit
Chris.
for him.
And you know
But I
that
think
because it
you
was
get
sent by
super
his
huge and then you
on
do
their
that.
iPhone. Like, okay.
Yes, I'm sure his assistant is on her iPhone all
give me a
fucking
break.
goddamn day, but
It makes for a great story, but give me a break.
his iPhone, yeah, whatever. But at any rate, there's another pitch in the live chat. The Great Whiskey 41 has a pitch. A new hero dons the glasses of true sight, but Instead of saving mankind, he betrays us and chooses the path of financial security.
I
Steven
like
Seagal in
All
They
right.
Live 2, sell out for the Punani.
Oh my god.
Oh my
For a
god. So
mi-
if
for
those
a
of you who
minute,
don't know, that is a reference to a Steven Seagal song where he speaks with a Jamaican accent or sings with a Caribbean accent. Me wonder
Punani.
punani. So yes, we are living in some kind of a world, folks. I don't know which
For
one,
some
but
reason, I thought he was starting to pitch an idea of like Lion-O, sight beyond sight. You know?
Yeah, I did. The true sight was interesting. It almost felt religious for a
Yeah.
second.
Sword of Almonds, give me sight beyond
I
sight.
think I started to evolve into a pitch that comes like directly from the source material. When they go into that like dinner, that like bougie dinner thing, where the guy starts showing them around, they specifically say by 2025 they would have colonized the entire planet. I want to go with that. I want to see that. They talk about it in the movie where they would be by 2025. That's next year. You could do that right now.
Okay.
And then they talk about multi-dimensional expansion. We could cross that with almost any other show that or movie that we've talked about. You could talk with Howard the Duck with multi-dimensions. You could do anything with the multi-dimensional thing you want. But the
no more
2025 that they would have
multi-dimensions.
had the whole planet, now their plan is off. So where are we? I think that's interesting.
Okay.
And Elon Musk is at the table.
Maybe.
What
He's
if,
some new kind of alien. Yeah.
What if
for
instead
sure.
of sunglasses this time around, it is an iPhone? Somehow or another,
And, like,
he
you
has a
look
box
through
of
it, like-
iPhones.
If you take a
And
photo,
he
if you take a
takes
photo of
pictures with
someone,
this- if he FaceTimes or takes a picture with this phone, he can see them.
That's something. Yeah.
that'd be kind of cool.
You can see.
I thought it was crazy how in the film we see the technology advance. They walk in with the shades. They're like, "Oh, those are out to date. Here are your contacts." And I'm like, "Whoa, they already got new shit right now." Like, who knows what they would have by now? You know.
For sure.
Oh man.
Yeah, but I like that idea because that scene seems to tell us where everything's going. You know. And yes, they shut down the signal. Here's a question: are you guys under the assumption Roddy is dead at the end of the
100%. He did.
You think that whole roof blew up, and when he's
Oh, he
flipping
gone.
off, that's a death?
He gone.
No.
Yeah, I didn't
Roddy's
know.
still
Yeah, I
alive.
didn't know,
No.
Mickey.
Oh, Mickey
Well,
says
even-
no. Mickey thinks
Well,
he's
even
alive.
Carpenter said in his making of, he's like, yeah, we blew up the character at the end for no sequel. I mean, Carpenter said he's dead. You know.
Yeah.
Well,
But
far be it
He's
from
so
us to
tough in the
pitch
movie.
you.
Yeah.
Now,
fight.
do I think Keith David's dead?
Mm,
You never see it.
yeah.
I loved
So-
what Carpenter said about Keith David, that he really wanted someone in that role who was not a sidekick, who would do his own thing, and he does. I find that he does. It's not a buddy comedy. It's not an odd couple. It's
He
not
essentially
Batman and
fights
Robin.
him because he doesn't want to put on the shades.
Yeah,
It's
but
like,
after that,
"No,
they're
I
kind of
won't
buddies. after that.
conform. I won't conform to you. Like I will not, do what you want me to do.
Well, he has a way better backstory than Nada does anyway. Nada just says, "Oh, I worked in Colorado for 10 years," but Keith David has a family. He hasn't seen them in a while. Like that, you shed a little tear for his situation.
Well, the sad part is Keith David could have been the star. It just, unfortunately, with the 80s, it just wasn't going to happen. You could have streamlined the script pretty well if if you had just had Keith David, but
Well, I would love the Keith David solo movie any day.
I think
but
it'd be
some
amazing.
interesting ideas in the
Yeah,
chat. I
that's not
see the great Matthew Sharp, another great mashup artist. Thank you for tuning in, Matthew. All phones are polarized with the same lens from the sunglasses as a screen, so that's an interesting thought. Is that like everyone just sees like into the, something happens with the phones, like an update or something.
Well,
And
you know
also
how you have,
Kyle
like,
2.0.
different like screens like OLED, all that stuff. Maybe they invent a different screen and everybody's like, like everybody you name a screen, everybody wants it. It's 4K, it's 8K, it's 10K, whatever. Oh, I gotta have it. So
Yeah,
I mean, it's true. I mean, we're the battle to lose physical media is caught up in this too.
Hey,
that-
VHS is making a comeback for a reason. So
It's
so
not.
what if
It's gonna
you know,
die. I mean, but that's the problem. It's not gonna live. Those
VHS is way more
break.
alive now than it was 20 years
I
ago.
know, but those tapes are gonna break. People, they have a shelf life. Like,
Yeah,
they're-
I think what Ian's saying is just not
Oh
making them
yes,
anymore.
yeah, it's
you know?
destructive. It's every
Yeah, like-
I understand.
I even had to buy a new DVD player lately. This new DVD player I got, I'm like, what the hell is this thing? It doesn't work the way I want it to. They made it like way smaller. It's like a computer drive, and it treats it that. Even the interface is bad. And I'm like, you can't even really get a good DVD player anymore.
I'll tell you what, now not to go on too much of a rant, but we were kind of better off. The first generation of DVD players where they all had the arrow buttons on the fucking player itself. That was so much better. If you lost your fucking remote, you could still navigate through a menu or whatever. The second they took those buttons off the faceplate of every DVD player, they just started fucking us all. But that's another
Sony
story
one
for
had like a
another
little
day.
joystick too.
The
and,
signal must be shut off at the source.
Yeah, that's when we all started to fucking conform and consume and obey.
But it comes up. It comes up all the time. Like I was at a con a couple weeks ago. Randomly, Bam Margera was there, which is weird. Like he's fine.
Pay for those lawyer bills.
But it was interesting to see him and what he's about right now and all that, and definitely wish him well. But like somebody really had a big question about Viva La Bam. Like, where can I see it? Where can I get it? Whatever. And everyone was like, hard copy. The only way you can really watch it right now is physical media. And so if you don't have that, you can't see it.
Well, yeah, because nobody's gonna put.
And not that I really need to
nobody's
see
gonna give
Viva La
dividends
Bam,
to
but
Uncle
people will
Vito.
watch it, so it's a good example.
Uncle
There
Vito
needs to be a streaming service just for the shit that no one knows who has the rights to. Shit like Fright Night 2 or like the way Rad was in limbo for a long time. There's a lot of movies that fall into this, like, that fall into this. We don't know. It's gonna take some red tape, but for now, enjoy it.
Hey,
Watch
how
it for
Kino
free.
Lorbo?
Get some,
How Kino
Chris,
Lorbo
you were saying,
got up the creek.
finding
I
this.
have no idea.
Listen,
Finding
Meg
this movie
Klink,
late
Meg
night.
Klink in the chat has a good one. The meta glasses.
I saw
yeah,
that.
that's what
I'm
I'm
always
saying.
happy to see Meg
Yeah.
Klink in the chat.
Meg Klink.
Now,
genius,
you're mentioning
folks.
Bam Margera. Now, I'm glad we did not get that version of They Live, starring
no.
Bam Margera and Uncle Vito. Although Uncle Vito is pretty great. I'm not gonna
Well,
talk shit on
actually,
Uncle
to
Vito
Ian's
there.
point, the other thing that Bam actually mentioned when someone said Viva La Bam is that before Uncle Vito died, apparently he allegedly did something to some woman or something, and that may be the reason that MTV keeps it away, is because of that.
Oh, for sure.
And I wouldn't
maybe.
be saying that because I don't know what happened, whatever. But Bam talked about it. He
It
asked
was
the
a
question, and that's what he said.
pedophile
Yeah.
It didn't sound like it was that far, but again, it was Bam telling the story, so he's biased. Obviously, it's his uncle,
Yeah.
and he's passed away, so I don't want to besmirch
Yeah.
someone who,
Well,
we
that's
don't
why
know
Viva
who
La
won't
Bam
be.
actually shut. That's why it went off the air.
Yeah.
It was the Uncle
Well,
Vito.
shit. Let's not
Unfortunate.
worry about getting too dark on this episode.
Yeah,
then.
no.
But
no.
also in the
okay,
chat,
but-
Gold's
but
Code
truthful,
says
though,
Norman
that-
Klink should be on the show. To which I
that's-
agree. I think both the parents responsible for you, Ian, need to come answer for their crimes against humanity. No, I'm joking.
Wow.
We would love to have them, and we do love you, Ian. We thank you for creating such a highbrow, snobby, curmudgeon-y film friend of ours.
They're the ones that showed me movies. It's on them. They're the ones that introduced me to Up the Creek. So you want to blame somebody? You
Up
blame.
the creek.
Well, they also probably showed you USA Up All Night, so they can't be all bad. But what's the other wrestler version of this movie? I always do it, and I hate to say it, it's kind of becoming my Robert Downey Jr. But what if you did it like 2 years later with the Ultimate Warrior and Zeus? Like, it would have been batshit crazy. That's a movie with no fucking script, and you cannot contain it. You better hope that you capture something from the parts unknown on film.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's be honest about it, right? Roddy really works in this movie because he's very quiet. He's an introvert.
Yeah.
He does not say a ton. He's always thinking or looking off. Like when he first gets the glasses, he just keeps looking and saying nothing. And the physicality. He actually caught shit after this because he's shirtless for so much. People thought his physique was digitally enhanced, and he had to like rage against that. Like, no, like what?
Yeah.
I
They
mean,
didn't
he
have
looks
that fucking
taut.
technology right
I
now.
think got Ricardo Montalban. Like, get out of here.
Well, there's a thing that people don't realize, and I'm sure the wrestlers all knew this long before the film stars did. you know, the notion of getting pumped up before you're seen, that's a real thing.
It's real
Like all
thing,
the
for sure.
all the muscle guys, they have like, oh, my take, give me 1 second, I gotta go do 50 push-ups real quick.
Yeah, slap,
and
slap,
you know,
slap, slap.
they just and it's like, and you'll be literally pumped up. It's like pumping up a tire full of air,
Yep.
like, and you
Yep.
look mad
and in their
swole,
head too,
like,
their fight song, they gotta get
totally,
their
yeah, they gotta kind of, it's like a psychological thing too. But then literally their body gets swole and they look way better on film.
And
It's
I
something
don't
like
want to give them
Stallone,
too much
Schwarzenegger,
credit.
all those guys did that shit, especially
But
if they
if-
were ever shirtless.
If you want to go into it, I mean, they're basically doing live theater in front of tens of thousands of people. You know, I mean, some of our favorite actors are
Oh,
people
yeah.
who did it on the stage first, did it in front of people, right? And then they do it on screen. And for me, if you're an actor and you've only ever been in movies, you're only acting for that director. That's what you're doing. The director's in front of you. You're doing what they say. You're acting for them. You're not doing it for anybody else. But if you're, I mean, I don't want to say wrestlers are theatrical actors, but they are. I mean, Cena has these
They're
chops
talented,
because
yeah.
look
Sure.
at what The Rock and Cena, what they do with their face. Like
Yeah.
they control every single muscle in their face. It's very
I'll tell you
impressive.
what, you take any wrestler from the 80s, and at least 9 out of 10 of them could teach improv at fucking Second City or the Groundlings or something
Oh,
like that.
for
I mean,
sure,
that is
for
that is
sure.
a master class in just like
I mean, they
staying
get very
in character,
physical
you know?
teaching, but you know.
What? No, yeah, I mean, just the interviews alone, like, forget what's in the ring, just those fucking interviews, dude. Like, that is where it's all sold, you know? That shit, if you buy into any of these fights, you buy into the interviews beforehand, and you just, oh, he's the good guy, he's the bad guy, you have who you're rooting for, whatever.
They also have this like I don't know, I might be reaching here, but like this real sense of self. Like one little thing I'm reading about Roddy with this movie, he was married at the time. He would not take off his wedding ring. So you see it in the movie. And that was the thing he would not cross. So there were lines because I'm sure in that business, you're constantly asked to do things you're not comfortable with and
I
whatever.
always think it's kind
There
of
were
funny
certain
though.
things he wouldn't.
It's like that Neil McDonough guy who's like, "Oh, I won't kiss anyone that's not my wife." He's like, "Well, that's fine, man, but then why the fuck are you an actor then? Like, get
Right,
out of the business. Like, be
You're
a
not trying to
producer,
play.
be something."
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what it is. You know what I mean? That's like,
But
you know,
when you
fucking.
can get work and people hire you and they agree to your conditions, it's just basically like it is what it is.
Yeah,
You know,
I mean,
if you don't, if you know, they always say like you can't hate the player, hate the game, whatever case may be. Like
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. Like like oh well, then why are you an actor, whatever case may be? Because that's his morals, that's his line, and this and that. People hire him, they like his thing. Let's be
I think he's a good
honest.
actor. I'm not trying to bash him. I'm just
But
saying
he
that's a
plays the
weird
same
No,
fucking
but the
thing.
question
It's
is
a
valid.
weirdly Kirk Cameron way to be about
Yeah,
things.
it's
you
not a
know?
rhetorical question though, Mickey.
No.
It's like literally we want to know the answer. You're an actor. If
Yeah.
you
Right.
won't do that stuff, why are you an actor exactly? And we're
Yeah.
not rhetorically asking. We're actually just asking
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
you're
for
now
sure.
walking yourself out of a lot of roles and a lot of things, whatever. I get a no nudity clause. I get stuff
Totally.
like that. But you can't kiss anyone of the female form for your entire career in anything that you do.
Yeah, it doesn't
that
matter.
cuts-
It's disappearing from film anyway.
Yeah,
What,
I mean,
kissing?
Yeah.
I guess.
he's kind of not wrong. I mean,
It's
you know,
after COVID. It's starting. If you watch movies more and more, it's starting to disappear.
You're
I
saying
mean, you know-
because of COVID, no one writes.
No,
kissing in
well,
movies.
no, it's just in general. There is a cultural conservative thing happening where we're going away from a lot of that.
from PDA or whatever you
Yep,
want to call it.
mhm.
Yeah, I could
It's
see
just-
that. Yeah, I guess I could.
It just is, and I mean, and a lot of people point out to the Marvel movies. You know, there's. I mean, I'm not saying it's not in there. They're definitely movies, but
There's
some
not a
of
lot of romance. Yeah.
yeah, there's romance, but there's
So-
not a lot of making out.
Well, even in this movie, right? I mean, I like Meg Foster and I like the role, but
Yeah.
it never gets there. And I mean, there's a little thing between them, but it never does anything, and then they kill each other. So it's kind
Meg
of
Foster has got to have the scariest eyes I think I've ever
Right?
seen
But
on
I
any
love those
human
Scary
being.
eyes that you'll
I
fall
love
in
those
love with.
eyes.
Oh, you like those? Those things terrify me. I think they're like.
no, I think it's
the-
cool, Chris.
She's gonna turn into like a James Earl Jones snake or something from like
They
Conan.
supported Roddy, right? Like with Keith David and with the other actors and with her, like she's really something to look at, but she's also not a sex object. You look at the eyes, you're not necessarily looking at everything else. And
Well,
for
oh,
you
r-
especially, you're the other movies that are associated here that she also did, which I have not seen, maybe you guys have seen, Immortal Kombat, the other Roddy movie that she's in, and they work
Oh,
together
no.
again later. I gotta watch that. I haven't seen it.
Oh wow! Just from the title
and
alone, I
being
need
in
to see
He-Man,
that.
I always loved her in Masters of the Universe too.
Oh yeah, is Evelyn?
Sure.
Her
They're
eyes
great,
are
yeah.
so piercing in that movie.
Yeah,
That's one. That's one to
Well,
go
they-
back for. Yeah, there's a
more
lot
and more
of references
makes
to
in that
Space
for them.
Pants in our Masters of the Universe episode.
Ah.
I could have seen Dolph Lundgren doing one of these though, bringing up He-Man.
Yeah, he was on the list for They Live.
I could have seen it. I would have bought him in
Yeah,
that.
I could have seen him for sure.
Dolph
He's got,
Lundgren,
you
if
know,
guided right, does okay.
Yeah,
it
just have to
takes
guide
kind
him.
of this. There's a quietness that it sort of take. You know, which the Ultimate Warrior, of course, would have been the opposite for, which why would have been so interesting to see.
The Ultimate
You know,
Warrior.
such a
If
fucking
you were-
lunatic, such a fucking spaz. Like
At
would
that
be
time, the
hilarious.
only other wrestler that I could see doing something like that would be Sting, but he was in WCW, and WCW
I could see Jake
wasn't
the
as
Snake.
big.
Oh,
Yeah, I can see Jake too, but he was in.
Who's-
You're going WWE, guys, or WWF guys, and whatever.
Who's
that.
the guy
But
that
Sting
did
was
this?
another.
Ramon.
I can
Sting
only
was
see
another
Hulk
guy.
Razor Ramon, Scott
Yeah,
Hall.
Razor Ramon.
Razor Ramon.
Yeah.
That was later
You
than-
want me
Two.
to
Yeah,
okay?
two.
Later, yeah, later.
Do you want the bad guy?
But again, a
Okay,
real
so-
character, like with the accent and everything, and didn't.
Sure.
You know,
Oh man.
I mean, for
Well, I
me,
love
you
you
would have
wanna
made
do
this-
something real stupid. and bring the
Carpenter cast him
bushwhackers
because
in there.
Roddy was an average guy. He was an
Exactly.
everyday
He was
guy.
a blue collar guy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. I mean, you know, that's what makes it work.
Well, just think of like how different, you know, what other like average guys at the time could have wound up in this, like Jim Belushi or something,
Oh.
you know?
Well,
Like-
yeah.
There's
If it-
a
I mean,
universe.
It would be a different character. It'd be more of a red heat Jim Belushi. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd-
not like an About Last Night. I'm humping her, I'm bumping her, I'm bumping
Yeah,
her.
I mean, it would have been the drunken hero. That's who that
Okay,
would.
okay, would have been Randy Quaid from Independence Day.
Yeah, it would have. Yes, it would have been the I'm the loser. Everybody thinks I'm the loser, but I'm the loser who sees the way out of this terrible world.
Mentioning
nobody
Independence Day, I
trusts
could have
me,
seen
I'm the
I could have seen a Bill Pullman version of this, you know, at a certain point, maybe.
I don't know. That
He-
is the Jim Belushi thing. You know, like Jim.
You
Belushi
prefer
and
Jim
Curly
Belushi.
Sue. Well, Jim Belushi and Curly Sue. That would be who would have been this character in this movie.
We're gonna really get into some minutia. That's like, no, I prefer the Mr. Destiny Jim Belushi, you know. It's
No,
gonna
only
get too
you are
weird
the
for
one
people.
you're the only one in this world that's seen taking care of business. Okay, like
Hey,
that's-
fucking that movie is a goddamn masterpiece,
You're
and it's
disgusting,
J.J.
man.
Abrams' first movie. It's got the great Charles Grodin, the great Ann DeSalvo.
disgusting.
It's a flawless film. It's got the Cubs winning the World Series, Mark Brace hitting a
flawless
home
film.
run. It's
a
got
good
Ken
movie.
Foray. It's a fucking flawless
movie.
film. Stu Naham, come on. There's
Outta here. Done with this
back when
world.
there was the California Angels before they became the Anaheim Angels. So
Talk
interesting in the
about
chat. This never
consume.
happens.
Talk
This
about
never happens.
bye. Jim
But in the live
Belushi,
chat-
bye.
In the live chat, Gold's Code agreeing with Ian. It says
Whoa.
Ian is basically saying movies suck now, and he is right. So mark this date, folks. It never
Stop
happened.
the presses.
Yes, I should have bought a lottery
They do
ticket
live.
instead of. Yes,
None
they
of that
do.
came out of these lips. I'm saying they're not as great.
You know what? Ian's got something on him. That's reeks of blackmail.
That's true. There's no doubt in my mind.
How many people
Um,
did you kill?
So, I mean, if it had to be made today, who who's
I mean,
who would
look,
star in
right away,
this?
it's a show, right? It would totally be a show. This could
Okay.
go on and on and on and on.
I like
My
that.
only thing is, when I really
Yeah,
think about it, and I never watched much of this, but it feels like the continuation could be something like Alien Nation, which like went on and on in serial form and movies, and I never dug it. Anytime I saw the heads with the cheetah stuff, if you guys ever saw
Yeah.
Alien Nation,
Okay,
I
can
was
do-
never
Can I
into
do a
Alien Nation
wild
at all.
pitch to like right field?
Yeah.
And like
The
maybe,
baseball analogies.
maybe Chris will catch it. I don't know. Okay, let's mix two movies together. All right. The Bad Christmas Where They Lived. All right. Give me
Ooh.
Billy Bob Thornton
Ah,
as Bad Santa
Oh wow.
in this world where he discovers the aliens.
So kind of a remake,
know-
mashup with.
It doesn't
Bad
need
Santa.
to be Bad Santa, but I love the idea of Billy Bob Thornton.
I like
as the
getting
lead
Billy
villain.
Bob in there.
I just want to
Billy
do a
Bob Thornton
Christmas
was great.
movie.
I was gonna say
Christmas
even like
always
maybe
sells.
I was gonna say maybe David Duchovny for sake of like doing something different with it, but and also I
You
just
could-
love David Duchovny.
You could
Oh,
always go the
X-Files
Nicolas
on it?
Cage route too.
Kind of, yeah.
Ah,
Ooh, yeah. I think
Nicolas
Billy Bob
Cage
may
could-
be. I think Billy Bob may be the way, though. Honestly,
But I like Billy Bob.
Yeah.
Billy Bob.
He can give you a little bit of everything. He can give you some of the Cage crazy. He can give you some of the
He can
fucking
give you the
rowdy tough
everyman,
guy.
A Simple Plan. He's very much the everyman in that movie, like heist type movie,
Now,
or
you
thriller,
could-
like money, like crime thriller.
How
Well,
about
you
if
would
you
have-
did
Team
you would
Billy
have,
Bob?
Blade.
somebody on-
It's
who's
Billy
been on the
Bob
streets.
and Wesley Snipes.
Billy
Boom.
Bob, what's his
Blade,
name?
mash it up with Blade.
Team
Or you
Sling
could
Blade.
do-
Blade.
You
Get
could
outta
do
here.
the
Blade,
Billy Bob and
Blade.
John Cena thing. You could do Billy Bob and John Cena. But Billy Bob, I would love to see Cena in this.
You just
think
want
I
to
do
see
think
Cena
you
in
got to get
everything.
Keith David in there.
He's your Robert
somehow.
Downey Jr.
Maybe
I
some
love
Chris
Keith
Rock,
David.
you know, get that.
Yeah.
He is. John Cena is the man.
If
I
anyone
just
could
saw
just
that
get
his new one, Jackpot, the other night. It wasn't
just-
that bad. It was
I'm not
very
gonna lie
high.
to you. If you're gonna do a sequel to They
concept.
Live, I do like something about because okay.
the internet, it has to definitely.
Well, it's
center
not
on
even
the
that.
Wheels are
internet.
turning. He's thinking.
What I have always been fascinated by around this time of season is just how much Christmas is not about Christmas anymore.
No, yeah,
it
it's
is
so
all
commercialized.
Consumed.
Thanksgiving is the new Christmas. You know?
Really, when at the end of the day, we're supposed to be kind of thinking about the story that happened 2,000 years ago, you know, in Bethlehem and, you know, and all this stuff. That's really what it's supposed to be. But, you know, all of a sudden, you know, parents are going, I got $600 worth for this kid, but now I need to spend $800 on that kid, but then that kid will be upset that I spent an extra $200 and you know,
and they're all spoiled.
having Billy Bob Thornton mixed in with all of that as one of these, and maybe he's not bad Santa, but you know, maybe he is a mall Santa somebody or you know.
But I do like it as a holiday movie though too. I think
Well, the
that's
commercial is
really
I
good.
think they
shopping, the
I
mall.
think
all
it
of
fits
that.
in there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
does
absolutely
really
Being in the
should
mall,
be about that.
Seeing the mall in those glasses would be wild. What do they have to say now? What are they telling us to do now? that we
Malls are
weren't
dead,
doing
so I don't
before?
know.
I know. Yeah, you're right. You're right. But again, even just the screens in general, phones, laptops, tablets. You know, what is that? That's even more than a random billboard that has a symbol under it or some type of scramble. Like they're beaming directly into our brains now. You know.
Well, like I said, he discovers a phone at one of the shops that he's, you know, in this dead mall. Because where would something like that be discovered? It would be at some guy has it at his store that's closing because nobody's shopping at the mall anymore, and he gets this packages of crappy phones that he can't sell, and Billy Bob steals one of them, and all of a sudden he's looking at it, and he does open up TikTok, but it's not called TikTok. It's called, you know, stupid window dummy people. You know, like, and he's like,
It's catchy. It's catchy.
I did kind of like the original idea of Bad Santa though, because if he's sort of drunk and not with it the whole time, is this real? Is this not real? Can
Yeah,
we get
exactly.
shit together?
Yeah. And he's looking at it, and it's, you know, one person who's saying, hey, you know, Epstein didn't kill himself, and you know, there was a trade-off that Biden left presidency in order to pardon his son, and you know, Trump this, and you know, all but it scrolls up, and it's, you know, one of the aliens doing a dance number, you know, where she's bouncing up and down.
They've sort of
Like,
integrated.
that's what-
Yeah.
that, you know, he's like, oh my God, like, you know, this is what people are supposed to do.
Yeah. And
You
with the
know,
Bad
well,
Santa
they
thing,
make you
Bernie
do
Mac
it.
is the R.I.P. But Bernie Mac is the Keith David to his to throw at him, and they fight, and they, you know, a lot like they do in Bad Santa. That works for me.
Oh God, I wish Bernie Mac was
Oh,
still
Bernie
alive.
Mac. Oh, the man.
would you
Right?
love-
Yeah, I know. I once we started doing
Incredible.
Bad Santa,
Would
I
have
was like,
loved
ooh,
that.
Bernie Mac.
Oh,
Would've
it would have
loved
been
him in
His
that.
great.
delivery.
But, but I mean, like
You
something
could do
about.
Tracy Morgan. Tracy
Yeah,
Morgan would be
that's a good one.
hilarious.
Oh
yeah,
God,
he's
yes, I do
Yeah.
love Tracy Morgan.
But I think you got to balance with Billy Bob because he's a lot. You know, it's like with
For sure.
Cage. If you put someone with Cage who's like him, it's gonna go
Yeah.
off the rails. real
Oh,
quick.
okay.
David
So
Wayne.
one more. The '90s indie pitch, right, with John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson as the guys, and they live, and it's basically just come on, it's fucking Pulp
Yeah,
Fiction
that's
too, you know.
golden.
It's
That's
Pulp Fiction
golden.
in the Armageddon, in the apocalypse, or whatever.
Or the version
that
of
would be
Sam
fun.
Jackson from Long Kiss Goodnight, where he's just getting fucked up the whole time and blown out of
yeah.
windows and stuff. He says that's his favorite character that he's played.
Not a-
Actually,
dick, it's a
do Sam Jackson and Michael Madsen switch it up because Michael Madsen's got some more of that like blue collar tough guy than John Travolta, I think, you know.
Yeah, I can see that.
I don't know, I could see Michael Madsen crushing it, but we are past time, so now Whiskey 4 says Ian needs to put on a tinfoil hat now.
Yeah.
So I think we
I don't
actually came
have
up with
it.
some good ones. I think we actually came up with some good potential ideas, ways to jump into a They Live sequels. It's not as impossible as it may have felt an hour ago. But before we wrap it up and say goodnight, is there anything going on you guys have got coming up in the works you want to let the people know about? Film stuff?
Follow me on Instagram, Ian Klink, but also you can read the new B movie article for as we're getting into the cold season for the snow creature. You know, the
snow
weather
creature.
outside isn't the only thing that's frightful.
Wow.
Nice.
Well, he's up on the hard sell. My mouth is watering as we speak, and I'm afraid I might melt the fucking snow creature.
Yeah.
So
a
I
little-
guess
a
it's
little,
time.
Little slow for me this time of year, but one thing I saw today, I just thought I'd mention because I know you guys are all fans too. Tony Todd would have been 70 today. They said.
Oh
Ooh, yeah.
man.
Night of the Living
That
Dead
kind of hit
90.
me real quick because he
Night of
could
the
have
Living Dead
been
90,
in
baby.
this. Maybe he would have been a good replacement maybe for Keith David. You know.
Oh man, Tony Todd would have been excellent. Yeah, good fucking call.
Yeah.
Good call indeed. Well, I guess then it's sadly time for me to say that you Fandom fans might want to tune in next Wednesday at 9 p.m. when Ian's going to be like a big bear that doesn't know how to kill the bunny for our Swingers episode. As always, if you enjoyed this video, the best way to help is to smash that like button and leave a comment telling us what movie or TV franchise that you want us to cover on a future episode of VCR Redux. And since you're already doing that, you might as well go ahead and like, subscribe, and follow Fandom Spotlight and Pop Culture Punk.
Watch very bad.
Till then, back up those Betamax, rewind those Laserdiscs, and we'll see you at the movies.
Life's a bitch and she's in heat.